Text Kina Yud Aleph, page 56. Eicha Eli Konenu Me'elav counts the life of Yoshio HaMelech. This Kina is a must to be said. We never skip it. Rashi in Divrei Hayomim says that it's a takana from the Nevi'im Rishonim, that whenever Yidden get together and bemoan tragedies like we do on Tisha B'Av, there is a mitzvah to add a kina for Yoshio HaMelech. In the past we've explained why, not the time now. But this kina speaks about the late Sonei Hador. Yoshio HaMelech thought that he had accomplished a tremendous tshuva movement in Klal Yisrael and eradicated Avodah Zarah. And the late Sonei Hador, the Abaryonim of the Avodah Zarah fooled him. And they thwarted his movement of tshuva. And the results were very serious. So I'm going to use this kina to explain how we are to relate to Yidden who are not frum, who are not Shomrei Torah Mitzvah. And there's all different kinds of Yidden who are not frum. There are Tinoko Shenishbu, and that in itself is a big machlokes. What does that mean, a Tinok Shenishbu? Does it mean a Jew who was brought up not frum, taught that it's okay to do what he's doing because he's not Orthodox? Unless you were on the line of Har Sinai of the Orthodox, you don't have to keep Torah. There were other lines. You got on the conservative line, so you got a different Torah. Got on the Reform line, you got even a different Torah. Somebody who was brought up thinking that that's true, according to some, he's a Tinnik Shanishba. According to others, it has to be somebody who never was familiar with Frum Yidden, never knew what Torah was, didn't see it, didn't live amongst Yidden who were Shomrei Torah. Big machlokas, what a Tinnik Shanishba. That's one possibility. And then there are Yidden who do know better, and they are over Aveira. And then there are Yidden who are from Yidden, who are also over Aveira. A Rasha, halachically, is somebody who is over Pashtus and Issa D'Oraisa, that everybody knows is Aser, and didn't do tshuva. And even if he's a tzaddik, gomer, and everything else, he has a din of a Rosh. So how do we deal with Rishoyim? Sometimes we have to know these halachas to know how to deal with ourselves. On the one hand, it's pretty clear that the mitzvah of V'yohavta re'acha kamocha and lo sisnes achicha bilvavecha applies halachically to Yidden that are Shomrei Torah mitzvahs. Re'acha b'Torah mitzvahs, achicha b'Torah mitzvahs. And a Yid who was over in Aveira, the Mezid, knew what he was doing. There's a din of a Rasha, and there's no mitzvah of Ahava, and there's no Isser of Sina. It's not so simple. There are many, many conditions. And obviously we're not going to learn through the whole sugya of all the halachas of how to deal or where the mitzvah applies or not. The purpose here is just to make you aware that nothing is simple. And there's what to learn. So after Tisha B'Av, when you can learn it. Just as much as a mitzvah to learn Hilchas Shabbos, otherwise you can't be Shomer Shabbos. There's no way to mekayim the mitzvah of V'ahavta L'reacha Kamocha and be nishmer from the Isser of Lo Sisna if you don't learn the halachas. There's plenty of svarim to learn from. Today, everything, there are svarim that deal with specific things, like doctors. Today, there's doctors who are specialists in the left pinky. Any diseases of the left pinky, they are experts. They are specialists. Right? If it's something in the next finger, forget about it. But that finger, they know. So today, there's svarim like that too. Svarim for every possible subtopic in halacha that makes it easy that you don't have to go looking for the sources. The person who wrote the Sefer did you a chesed, and he brought everything down possible about that inyan. And there's svarim about Avas Reim, Sina, Chinam. Find them, learn them. So on the one hand, yeah, there is such a thing, that the mitzvah of Ahava and the Isser of Sina doesn't apply to Abaryonim. Mitzad Sheni, the Svarim say that it's Nachon Legalo Schiba B'Yazer Lohem Mishum Darchei Shalom V'Kiruv. There's an idea of showing love and helping people who are Abaryonim because of Darchei Shalom, because of Kiruv. The Moshe Cordovero says that you have to have Rachmanis and Chotim and not be Mavaza anybody. The Chesed Lavrom, the Chido's grandfather, says that even the Rishoyim should be makir their milas. So it's not black and white how you deal with a person who's not frum. That just write him off. No mitzvah of Ahava, no Isser of Sina, and that's it. Not so posh. Some people hold that it only applies to apikursim and minim. Somebody who's machti es harabim and oker the Torah. Chazon Ish holds like that. For various reasons. Bizman hazeh, this inyan that Avas Reim doesn't apply and Sina doesn't apply, only applies to those kind of people. Not everybody is like that. In fact, there are very few people like that. Unless, as the Nitziv says, you think that everybody who's not exactly like you is an apikoros. Then it's very easy. You know, you can hate everybody, because everybody's an apikoros except you. Another condition is, you can only hate such a person and not love them if you gave them tochacha and they didn't accept it. And the Chazon Ish holds Bizman Hazeh, there's no way of knowing if you were Yotzei the mitzvah of tochacha or not, because maybe it's not that he didn't accept it, that you didn't give it right. Could be that the real effective tochacha is not going to a person saying, you're a terrible Mechal Shabbos, why don't you become Shomer Shabbos? Could be that that is not exactly effective tochacha. Could be. Maybe the only way that you can get that person to really realize the beauty of Shabbos is by throwing stones at him. Could be. I don't know exactly what the greatest effective method of tochacha is. There are all different shittas. But it could be that neither of those ways are the effective way. In addition, you also have to malabit schus on the person. Maybe there's a limut schus. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know how serious it was. Maybe he thought it was okay in this situation or whatever. So you have to malabit schus. So a cute thing from the... I have it here. No, okay. The Berditchever once saw a person eating on Tisha B'Av. She went over to him and he said, perhaps you don't know that today's Tisha B'Av. He said, no, I know it's Tisha B'Av. He said, oh, then probably you're sick and you're not allowed to fast. He said, no, I'm healthy as an ox. He said, then perhaps, I don't remember what the other thing, we went to the whole thing, and each thing the person said, no, I know exactly what it is, and I'm healthy, and I know you're not allowed to eat on Tisha B'Av, and I really don't care. He said, Rabbanu Shalom, look at this Yid. He's willing to make himself into a Rasha and not say a sheker. I don't know if Limud Zchus has to go that far, but that's a Limud Zchus of the Barditchever. The Klosenberger Rebbe, after the war was over and they were in the DP camps, got Yidden together who basically were not from. And they davened together Yom Kippur. Came time for the vidu, he took out a machzor, and he said, Oshamnu? Anybody here can accuse anybody here of Oshamnu? Bogadnu? Gozalnu? What the Rebbeinu Shem put us through? Is there anybody who can accuse anybody that they don't have at least some kind of limud zchus for not doing what's right or whatever? He said the only thing that we can accuse anybody of is that they don't have faith and trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom. That with all of that, the Rebbeinu Shalom still loves us. So if you'll be modeh that, yeah, maybe you have tainas or whatever, but you'll have your faith in the Rebbeinu Shalom restored, then none of this applies to any of us here, and the Mirza Hashem next year will be able to say the Machzor a different nusach. The Dubna Maggid says that the only time that you can hate another Jew who's an Abarian is if you know there is absolutely no secret that he's going to do tshuva. There's a chance he'll do tshuva, then who knows, and tshuva helps l'mafreya. That doesn't mean that you're okay, I'm okay, and do what you want, and kol ava she'ein bo tochacha ein ahava. There's a mitzvah hocher tochich zamisech. And it could be, I don't remember if anybody says this, but it's pasha pshat in the pasuk. Lo sisna sachicha bilvavecha. The greatest sina is to let somebody continue doing averis, like somebody taking poison, you don't stop him. So lo sisna sachicha bilvavecha. Don't hate him, and by what is not hating him? Give him tochacha. If you really love him, then you want him to stop doing what is harmful to him. With all of that, even though you can't hate the Rasha, but you have to hate his rishus. What's the toelis of hating a Rasha? First of all, that you don't become complacent Torah. That you hate rishus, that you shouldn't be complacent and rishus in the world is okay. Secondly, you shouldn't be influenced by that person's rishus. Separate from him to a point where you don't become mushba. And also, that if people see that you ignore what he's doing, then maybe they'll think it's okay to do. So be mashpia bad on other people. Another reason is that sometimes by separating and showing the person your disgust for what he's doing, it'll give him the incentive to do tshuva. It'll give other people the incentive not to do that. It used to be that intermarriage was so unusual that the way to combat it was to sit shiva for a person who intermarried. And that made a statement. First of all, the person knew that that's it. They sat shiva for it. Maybe he'll take it to heart. Maybe it would make an impression on him. And other people would know that if this is what you do, this is what happens. It was a deterrent. Today, according to most shittas, that doesn't apply. Intermarriage is so common. You're not going to stop anybody from intermarrying because you're sitting shiva. I mean, what it is. They have no idea what you're doing. Why should they care? And nobody's not going to intermarry because somebody else sat shiva or whatever. Today they say just the opposite. If you want to save the person, most of these marriages don't last too long. Right before you turn around, most good marriages don't last too long. So kol shekain the ones that are on shaky ground. They're already writing the prenuptials before they get married because they have to already start with the divorce before they get the kedusha. So the chances that the marriage will last are pretty flimsy. So maybe you'll get the person on the rebound. So if you marachik them completely, you lose them completely. So they're all different shittas. What's going to be effective and what's not going to be effective? The Maharal says that you never hate the person, you just hate the kochos hara. Explains the bracha of the malshinim. That it's not going on the people, it's going on the kochos hara behind them. Menachem Mendel Vitebsk says a person should never be mislotzates on any human being, even a Russian. It's not the purpose. And you never know what will be mashpi on a person, especially a Yid. Chofetz Chaim says, why are we matir on Yom Kippur l'spalalim ha-baryonim? There are baryonim. He says, because maybe somebody will take it to heart and somebody will do tshuva because you were matir him to come into shul and daven Yom Kippur, that maybe that will have a hashpah. It's kedai to daven for all in kol ha-baryonim. And there's a shear. Even when you're allowed to hate a Rasha, but you have to do it because you hate his rishus. And therefore, if you're over the same Aveira, you're not allowed to hate him. Because obviously you don't hate him because of the Aveira, because you do it. You don't hate yourself. So you must hate him for other reasons. Tosa says that when you're allowed to hate a Rasha, but then what happens? He hates you because you hate him. Ma'im put him upon him. And now you hate him because he hates you. So you're not hating him anymore because of Rasha. You hate him because he hates you. So there's already mixed in a little bit that's not l'shem mitzvah. That already is the Yetzer Hara. That's what the Gemara says is kovesh the Yetzer Hara, even for a soneh that you're allowed to be soneh, because part of it is already Yetzer Hara. There's also a chiyuv of kiruv, not just to hate people who are baryonim, try to make them not baryonim. I always like to say, explain Yavetz. Yaakov Emden says, the Gemara says, Birkas Haminim b'Yavne tiknua. In Yavne, simple, when the Sanhedrin was in Yavne, that's where they established the Birkas Haminim, extra bracha and Shmon Esrei. Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden something cryptic. B'Yavne, Yayin b'Somim ner Havdalah. That's b'Yavne tiknua. I think what he means is the following. Yes, there's a time to say Birkas Haminim, to curse the Minim, to separate yourself from them. But that's not the first line of action. That's after you've done everything else. First, Yayin. Some people are attracted by the emotional side of Yiddishkeit. So, invite them to a Shabbaton, dance with them, give them a nice meal, the Yayin. See if that works. You tried that, didn't work. So some people are attracted to the intellectual side of Yiddishkeit. Ner, enlighten them. Sit down, learn Torah with them. Maybe that will be mashpi on them. Tried that, didn't work either. Besomim. Some people are attracted to the more the niceties of Yiddishkeit, such a nice family life or whatever. Show them the besomim. If after you tried everything, you give them the yayin, the ner, the besomim, and they still remain rishoyim, then havdalah. Then you can separate yourself from them. But the havdalah only comes after yayin, besomim, and ner. They weren't misakin the birkas haminim before they tried everything else with these people. Once nothing else worked, then there's birkas haminim. Maybe that's what the Yavetz means. Baruch there hated the secular Zionists, but he never was mevayish any of them. He was very, very careful. Not to Mavaish. All his Sina, it didn't become a personal thing. It remained Sina for the principle. And even when people Mechalei Shabbos came to shul, he would give them aliyahs. Because there's a difference between hating the rishus and how to deal and mekarev the rosh. Especially not to be malamet chov on Klal Yisrael. Gedolei Yisrael. Gedolei HaGedolei. Moshe Rabbeinu, according to some Shitas, was punished because he called Klal Yisrael Morim. And even though later on he said Mamrim Hayisem, we always quote the Midrashi HaTorah, Reb Shlomo Astra. There's a difference between calling Klal Yisrael Morim or Mamrim. Morim describes what they are. Klal Yisrael are not Morim. They are Kodesh V'Tor. Mamrim, what they do, yeah, we rebel, but we're not rebels. Elianovi said, Brisi Heifar. So the Rebbeinu Shalom made him the Malach HaBris. You have to come and show that every Yid, every Bris, what you said was a bezoin to Klal Yisrael. They're not made for Bris. Hosea, the Rebbeinu Shalom came to him and said, Bonecha Chotu. The Gemara says, what did the Rebbeinu Shalom expect him to say? Bonayim. Bonecha Heim. B'nei Chanunecha. B'nei Avram. Yitzchak Yaakov. Rachem Aleim. That's what he should have said. You know what Hosea said? Yeah, you're right, Rebbeinu Shalom. They're really a miserable bunch of people. Haverim b'umma acheres. Get rid of them. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, get rid of them? So he told Hosea to marry a Zonah, and they had children from her, and then he said, get rid of her. He said, I can't get rid of her, she's my wife. These are my children. He said, you can't get rid of this Zonah and these B'nai Zenunim, and you expect me to get rid of Klal Yisrael, of B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Again, we have to remember who Klal Yisrael is, who every Yid is, what his Pnimius is. Every Yid inside is screaming, Ritzoneinu Lasos Ritzonecha. If we don't lose sight of that. On the one hand, you can't condone Rishus, Averas. You have to deal with it in its proper way. And even sometimes to separate yourself from people for fear that you or other people will be influenced. At the same time, never forget what potential every Jew has. And that there's always methods of perhaps trying to extract that potential and bringing it out to the actual. And seeing to that you don't destroy the Rasha, but you destroy the Rishus within him and turn him into a tzaddik. And don't think that it's impossible. I remember in Telz, there was a girl that came to us through Rav Gifter and his wife from a secular college, Oberlin College. She didn't know too much about Yiddishkeit, but she had a love for Yiddishkeit. She wanted someplace to daven Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So her conservative rabbi there in the college said, there's a rabbinical college, I think maybe that would be a good place. So she came to Telz to daven Rosh Hashanah, and she was, if anybody's ever been in Telz Yeshiva for Rosh Hashanah, it's a great kiruv tool. So she was enthralled. She became frumer and frumer. She came every Shabbos. Most of the time we had her. We drove her back to Oberlin College on Sunday. And she was becoming a frum. One day, she says, I would like you to invite my boyfriend for Shabbos. Like him, to also see what Yiddishkeit is. So this boy, Richard, shows up Friday night without a yarmulke. He didn't even know that he should wear a yarmulke in the Telz Yeshiva Beis Medrash. Nobody jumped on him. He had a big ponytail. We gave him a yarmulke. We sat down and learned a little bit with him. That was my sheet of my Rosh Hashiva, that you want to start with kiruv, sitting down and learn something. That's the biggest kiruv tool. Learn with him. Looking at this guy, my first reaction was, we got to get rid of this guy because he's going to hold this girl back. This girl's becoming frum, and this guy is like from another world. Today, that guy is a choshev arav in America who wrote Sfarim, and his wife is that girl who was his girlfriend, who was a choshev Rebbetzin. I won't tell you who it is. I don't think he would mind, to tell you the truth, but unless I ask him, very choshev arav. Name isn't Richard anymore. And her name's not Hillary either. So you never know. Look at somebody, you have to be able to look beyond the chitzonius and see every year this Kodesh Vitar, and his neshama is screaming. Just have to let the neshama get to the surface. And if that guy could be a choshev arav today, a mechaber of Sfarim, very choshev American rabbi, then anybody could be. And so at the same time, yes, there is an Indian that the halachas of Lo Sisna and V'yohavta Re'acha Kamocha don't necessarily apply 100% to Abaryonim, but there are Tanoim and Tanoim. Go and learn them, so you'll know how to deal with it properly, just as much as how Hilchas Shabbos is not easy. There are Tanoim and Pratim and Pratim. This is no different in this mitzvah. If you want to do it properly, go and learn, so you'll know how to mekayim that mitzvah even in these situations. Bye. Eicha Eli.
Kesem במקרה אחד כוס מגידה ושטס במועד שנעשה שמיטה פרגו הקר לסוס דבר ב-22 מהרס שסוס כיסות גדולו איכו ב-22
Next Kina, Good Zion. In Tochal Nonoshim Pirium, page 69. Sina speaks about cruelty, Achzorius, was thrust on Jewish women who were delirious from hunger and then are eating their own children, the flesh of their own dead children. This is the proper Kina to speak about the most difficult Ahava and Sina, not about Goyim, not about Rishoyim, and not about Jews who are different than you, but Jews that were mamash like you. Your friends, neighbors, and sometimes the Achzorius that we have, and how we treat our closest friends and neighbors. And here we'll spend some time speaking about what the mitzvah of Ahava is and what the mitzvah, the Isser of Sina is. Start with the mitzvah of the Ahavta Re'acha Kamocha. The Ramban says that the mitzvah is basically a mitzvah of attitude. That you should want for your neighbor, your fellow Jew, what you want for yourself. You don't have to give it to him. And Adarabba, when it comes to Maisa, Chayecha Kodmin, you come first. But at least in attitude, you shouldn't fargin another yid anything. The same hatzlacha that you want for yourself, the same happiness you have when you're matzliach, you should be happy when he's matzliach in every way. Others learn that it's nice, not just attitude. You should do for someone else what you would expect him to do for you, and we'll see in a second what that is. Some learn that it's only negative. You shouldn't do to somebody else what you wouldn't want them to do to you. It includes also having Rahmanis on his property, speaking his praises. The Sefer Abris, and likewise the Ksav Kabbalah, probably quotes the Sefer Abris. He says the exact same thing, the same order. Probably he's quoting for this, even though I don't remember him quoting the Sefer Abris. What can a person expect, or what does he expect? Not what can he. What do people usually expect other people to do for them? And therefore they're mechuyev to do that for somebody else. He says there are 8 things. First is, somebody can expect that somebody loves him honestly and not falsely. He's honest. Loves him honestly, and he's not a hypocrite. He's not stabbing him in the back, smiling at him in his face, and hating him in his heart. He's honestly loves him. Second thing is that he'll respect him. Give him respect. So you have to give respect to other people. That Yidro Shlomo, that he should be concerned about his welfare. Ask him how he is and really mean it. Yishtatei B'tzaro. He should feel bad when something bad happens to him. He should be commiserate with his sorrows. He should be makabel in b'sever ponim yafos. Should greet him cheerfully. And some say, "B'sever panim yafos," even if you're not too happy to see the person, you should make them think that you're happy. That it's okay to be false. Because what are you hurting him? And if you'll make it look like you're happy, he'll be happy, and then you'll be happy because people reflect each other. So it doesn't hurt to even give the person the impression that you're happy to see him. Don't lekaf schus, give him the benefit of the doubt. Offer to help him in a small way, whether it's physically or monetarily. Nobody expects big monies from someone else. They don't have to give big monies to other person. But a small amount, yeah, do expect. Nobody expects you to quit your job and be a caregiver for me, in place of me having to hire a Filipino. But you could help me pick up, my back hurts, I can't pick up the piece of paper. I would expect somebody to do that for me, so I have to do it for them. And lastly, not to be condescending and haughty and overbearing over another person, not to be misgoy over him. Those are the 8 things that the Sefer Abris and likewise L'Ksav Kabbalah say that's included in the positive actions of the Ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. It also includes all chesed, according to the Rambam, and not to cause damage to a person. But a person has to know how to fulfill that also, that he doesn't burn out, that he doesn't do chesed that harms a person or harms other people in doing chesed for one person. Sometimes you help one person but you're hurting other people. It also takes chachma to know where helping maybe is you're doing more harm than good, and who to help first. Closer the person is, the more the person needs, also is part of the cheshbon. Sefer Abris says, "V'yohavta l'reacha kamocha," even if the guy has the same profession as you, and you think that he's stepping on your toes. He's kamocha. You have to love him also. Even if kamocha, the Sfarim say that he has chesronos. He's not perfect, but neither are you. And you would expect the other person to overlook your chesronos, overlook his chesronos. Not only that, but the halacha is that you even have to love somebody who hates you. Somebody who was mavaza you. Somebody who is a Baal Midos Rose. Or somebody who asks you to help them in the most insulting way. All of those, you still have a mitzvah of Yohavta L'Reacha Kamocha. And you have to help such a person too. Even if what you are doing for the other person you wouldn't expect because you don't need it. You don't care. But he cares. Then you have to do it for him even if to you it doesn't make a difference. And all these things are very difficult. Very difficult. Not easy at all. But at least a person should makabel that he wants to reach that ideal someday. He's going to try. He's going to do it where it's possible for him to do at this point and work on himself that someday he'll be able to do even more. And if you're makabel, the Tzitz Eliezer says, it's as if you already did it. The Chassam Sofer says, it's much easier to be Yotzei with the Ribono Shel Olam than be Yotzei with human beings. Much harder than Bein Adam L'Chaveiro than Bein Adam L'Makom. But that doesn't mean that you're exempt from trying. And like everything, it's not all or nothing. It's not if you can't do it, so don't do anything. But if you know how important it is, you'll make an effort to do what you can. And it's very important because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't zoche to all the godless that he had. Only because he was an Oev Yisrael and mitztayr b'tzorosim. So says Reb Chaim Vital. Chaim Volozhiner, his son, in the Hakdama to Nefesh HaChaim says that his father was very, very makbid that he was not mitztayer, b'tzar shel acherim. That when somebody had a tzara, that he didn't commiserate with him, he didn't feel bad for him. Avas habrios brings a person to dveikus b'Hashem, which is the tachlis of the entire bria, and that's why it's a klal gadol b'Torah, and it's kolel a lot of mitzvahs. And a person becomes a giver and not a taker. He becomes a good person. It stops lashon hara. The Ribono Shel Olam loves a person who loves other Jews. And a person who is mashrish, a feeling of love for other people, in himself, is more muchshir to do most of the mitzvahs of the Torah. And achdus and Ahava helps even amongst Rishoyim. That was the difference between the Dor HaFlog and the Dor HaMabul. Dor HaMabul was destroyed because they didn't have any unity. But the Dor HaFlog, even though they were Rishoyim, but they had unity amongst them, it helped for them, they shouldn't be destroyed. Aside from the Ahavta Reacha Kamocha, a person who does chesed, a person who loves other Yidden is also Mekayim another mitzvah, the Halachta B'Drachav. And that's why the Shari Tshuva says that every city should appoint people who are trained in helping in many, many ways. Hatzalah, Zaka, but not only that, people who run free loan societies, other kinds of gemach. It's a mitzvah. It's all part of the mitzvah of the Ahavta Reacha Kamocha. What brings a person to Avas Reim? Intellectually, learning and thinking about Hakoras HaTov and the godless of Yidden. Also, each and every person has within him, as a Jew, a natural friendship and a natural Avas Yisrael. But if you go through the motions, sometimes that brings out the emotions. They're there, but they're buried. You have to bring them out. If you're mizbonein in the milas of other people, and you see their good, strong points, and don't look only at their chesronos, then you'll come to love other people. By doing chesed, the more you do, the more you want to do. The more you're a giver than a taker. Train yourself to be happy when other people are matzliach, and to be sad when they're nichshol. That also helps to engender Ahava. What's Sina? What is included in Bosisnes Achicha Bilvavecha? First of all, the Rambam holds that you're only over that lav if it's in your heart. If you go to your friend, or your enemy, I guess, and you say, you know what, I hate your guts. I can't stand you. You're not over this issue. You're definitely not Mekayim v'yohavta reacha kamocha. But you're not over the issue of Losisna. The Rambam learns Bilvavecha means only in your heart. And they explain it in a few ways. Why is the Isser Dafka if you hold it in your heart and you don't tell the person? One reason is because once you verbalize it, you ventilate it, and it gets less. It festers, and it's really strong when you hold it in. And therefore the Sina, to be over the lav, has to be so strong that you never got it out of your system. One shot. Another one is that we are separate physically. The only place that we are really one is on our neshama, in our heart. So when you have Sina in your heart, that's where it really causes damage. Another practical idea. If the guy knows you hate him, he can protect himself from you. But if he doesn't know, he thinks that you're his friend, and inside you really can't stand him, then he's not going to be able to protect himself from you. In fact, they say, that's what David HaMelech said. Hashem li ba'ozroi va'ani ere b'sonai. Ribono Shel Olam, I can take care of my enemies. I just need your help with the guys who I think are helping me. Hashem libos, or you help me with the people I think are my friends. I'll take care of the enemies. Another reason is that if you hate somebody in your heart, you don't go to them and tell them. If you tell them, I don't like you because you did this and this, you give them a chance to explain, maybe you're making a mistake. Or if you're not making a mistake, maybe he'll apologize. So if you don't confront him, there's no chance of this ever being corrected. If you do confront him, it can be corrected. And some learn, other Rishonim, that it's even in your heart. Kol shekain, if you go and tell the guy you hate his guts, you're also over this issue. You're not allowed to hate somebody even if they hate you, even if they embarrassed you, even if they damaged you, even if they bothered you and hurt you. You still can't hate them. There is a shita the Stipler holds, that if you were mochiach somebody and they admitted that they did something wrong and they refused to ask you mechila, then you can hate them. I heard at the men's Lashon Hara from Rabbi Nissen Kaplan, gave a very, very fine shir, drosha, on how to avoid Lashon Hara, but it applies also. Chofetz Chaim says Lashon Hara and Sina are the same, pretty much the same. He said there are three things that you can do to avoid hating somebody or speaking Lashon Hara about them. First thing is, don't get angry. If you lose yourself and get angry, you're going to end up speaking Lashon Hara or hating the person. So hold your anger. Secondly, see things from the other person's perspective. Even though you may not agree with him, but try to see how he sees it. And understand that maybe from his perspective it's not as bad as the way you see it from your perspective. And thirdly, be melamed schus. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Try to find some schus in what he did, even from your perspective. If there's no toelis to be mochiach somebody, then you should be mochel them without being mochiach. And when a person asks mechila, the Rambam says, then you're mechuyev to give him mechila. And you shouldn't be an achzor, achzorius. It's a midah of Esav, not to forgive people, to hold grudges for long times. Evraso shomra netzach, that is a description of Esav HaRasha. It's not something for any Jew to be proud of, that they hold grudges. What is Sina? How does it manifest itself? If you didn't speak to somebody for 3 days because you're upset with them, then you're considered a sona and you're over the Yisur Sisna. And it's only a siman. If you did speak to them, but not because you like them, it's your mother-in-law. And if you had your choice, you wouldn't speak to her ever. But your wife said that, she'll leave you if you don't speak to her mother. So you have no choice. You're over lo sisnas achicha bilvavecha. And if you didn't speak to somebody out of Sina, even less than 3 days, and it's clear that you broke off relations with them because you can't stand them, then you're also over that issue. That doesn't mean that you have to be overly friendly with everybody. You can cool off relations with people that you really don't feel you have any connection to, or that really rub you the wrong way. You don't totally cut off relations, but these people, just your character and theirs just don't mesh. They're pests. They're nudges. You don't like to be nudged or pestered. So you can cool off a relationship as long as it doesn't stem from hatred. And it's not total. The next thing that is the character of Sina, which constitutes this aveira, mevakesh ra'asa. You're looking to harm that person, either physically, or covet-wise, or parnasa-wise. I'm out to get the guy. I want to hurt him. that's, you're over the issue of Sina Sachicha, even if you didn't do anything. But you're trying to find ways to do it. And the last thing is Sameach Le'edo. You're happy when he has a durchfall, he has a failure. There's a shaila whether that's a big failure, right? His house burned down, and you're dancing in your house over it. Then you're over Lo Sisna Sachicha Bilvavecha. But the guy lost $10, and you're happy. Could be for that you're not over, even though Reb Chaim Kanievsky holds you're over Lo Sisna even for something small like that. But you're not over Lo Sisna if you're just happy that the guy didn't have Hatzlacha. He didn't get the job that he wanted. But not that something bad happened to him. And people in the most difficult situations, so Maisa in the Holocaust, people didn't have clothes to guard them from the cold. Somebody stole the guy's only vest. So he said, Mistama, he needed it more than I did. And therefore he felt that, I really had a chiyuv to give it to him, so he took it from me without giving me the nisayim. Same story of Rabbi Kiva Eger. He's traveling by wagon in a storm. He was inside the wagon, tried, and the wagon driver obviously was outside with the horses, soaking. So Kiva Eger said to him, we're coming to the city now, right? You can't remain with those wet stockings that you have, you're going to catch pneumonia. But, so Rabbi Kiva Eger a few minutes later handed him a pair of dry stockings to put on. The guy was wondering, all the baggage was locked up under the wagon. Where did Rabbi Kiva Eger get a spare dry stockings to give him? Sure enough, they got off the wagon, he looked down, and he saw that Rabbi Kiva Eger wasn't wearing any socks. He had given him his own socks to be able to, he knew that he needed them more than he did at that time. Maisud Rav Aaron Kotler. There was somebody who constantly berated Rav Aaron Kotler. He was totally misnagid to him. Right? He held that he was doing terrible things or whatever. He was a big kanoi, and he held that Rav Aaron didn't have the right shitas or whatever. Constantly berated him, constantly spoke badly about him. After Rav Aaron died, this man came to a gemach to help support him. So they asked him, why, all of a sudden? He said all those years Rav Aaron had supported him. Even though this person was a misnagid to him, made his life miserable. But that didn't stop him from helping support this person. That's real Lo Sisna and the Ahavta Reacha Kamocha. Bottom line, there's a lot of halachas of what the mitzvah of the Ahavta Reacha Kamocha is. There's a lot of halachas and what Lo Sisna Sachicha Bilvavecha is. Go learn, at least today. We want to help build the Beis HaMikdash. Can't learn all these halachas today. But maybe I gave you a little bit of a forspice, which is supposed to build up your appetite. And now you know there's what to learn. Go and learn it. And with the Kabbalah that you're going to learn it, so we've accomplished today to counteract the Sheba of Sina, which destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. So if everybody here will be Makabel, B'li Neder, to at least sometime between now and the next Tisha B'Av, look into these halachas. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to open a sefer, to get familiar with the halachas. Once you know the halachas, you can be Makayim them. Then you accomplish tremendous things today. And Amir Hashem, and that's chus, we won't have to sit here next year, and we'll be able to celebrate Tisha B'Av as a yom tov.